Previously on Final Prompt.
We are also prisoners in a cave, which is this time a digital cave.
I like ChatGPT, but I'm afraid about AI in general.
Is there any fear you have about it?
I basically use it on an everyday basis.
Making them extremely lazy.
Both scared and excited, but mostly scared, I would say.
And unfortunately, I don't see an easy way out of this cave.
I came to Greece chasing something. Philosophy, AI, something about Plato's cave. And the more we talked, the more I realized I have no idea what I'm doing. But that's the fun part.
The algorithm is an algorithm that should be creating values and virtues in order to be effective in everyday life.
Inner necessary dialogue to understand what is ethical and what is not.
Now we've stepped back and we've realized that many of these AI systems are able to know ourselves more than we do. So there's this disconnect.
You have to find the right way and the right amount in every action.
I was looking for balance, trying to figure out what enough feels like.
Metron. And metron is this right amount. So that's the essence of prudence, finding this metron, this measure, this measured life. And you find this right amount not exclusively by using reason, but also by using imagination, intuition, experience, and emotions. And the other interesting thing is that this concept of metron, the right amount in human action, it's objective and subjective at the same time. It's objective because you have to have a metron in action. If you don't manage to establish it, you will become miserable. You will self-destruct as a society. But it's also subjective in a sense that, let's take, for example, drinking alcohol. The amount of glass of wine you need to feel nice and inspired is different from the amount of glasses I need. But still, metron applies to both of us. Your metron is, let's say, 3 glasses. After 3 glasses, you're getting wasted. My metron is, let's say, 5 glasses. After 5 glasses, I'm getting wasted. So metron is objective, but at the same time, subjective.
Knowing yourself.
You should know yourself in order to find a metron. That's the basic idea. Socratic propagated self-knowledge in order to find the metron, in order to be able to take care of ourselves. And the care of the self is the second base of ancient Greek philosophy. It's self-knowledge and self-care.
Yes.
And you need one in order to have the other.
And Dr. Stamatellos, he reminded me that virtue isn't some sort of dusty concept. It's how we stay human in the age of code.
Walk and talk and be inspired through walking, they call peripatetics, the walking philosophy. Yes, so it became a tradition called as an alternative name of Aristotelian philosophy, peripatetics. It's like a school. So when they used to say peripatetics are the philosophy of Aristotle or the philosophers of Aristotle.
Interesting.
Is very important for everyday life. So Aristotle's contribution in becoming wise and becoming practically wise is very important for every single individual that uses an AI. Yes, to decide
And discern.
Yes. And even later developments of virtue ethics, like the Times, virtue ethics is more psychological and more theoretical. It gives us this inner necessary dialogue to understand what is ethical and what is not. It's not only about rules or about the consequences of our action. It is important to understand what we know and believe, to evaluate our own views in the new era of AI.
And you would do that through what's like the Socratic dialogues? Is that similar?
Yes, a Socratic dialogue, of course, has 2 aspects. There is the outer aspect where there is a dialogue in the agora, as Socrates used to challenge his own fellow Athenian citizens and make them uncomfortable and ask them, what do you really know about this? How do you decide about what is justice, what is fairness, what is the truth? And an inner Socratic dialogue, like what the Latinus used to do, to ask yourself in front of the spirit, what do you really think about these decisions?
Where did this belief come from? Could I arrive at it myself, or was it handed down to you?
Yes, just a challenge on how these beliefs have been established in yourself. So this doubt, this skepticism, is very important to understand, in my view, how we can be critical, first of all, with ourselves, and then to decide wisely, having this community in our mind. So I think that AI and the technological advancements have a very specific ontology, if I can use this term. They have a specific location that is taken in front of our mobile phones, in front of our screens. It is a mirror that reflects ourselves.
Yes.
So in this case, we have to decide for ourselves. We are alone in front of the cyberspace, in front of the internet, the AI. So first of all, we have to revisit what we really know.
And right now, we're not. You ask a question and it just tells you the answer. It's not allowing you to arrive at the.
We need a human-centric AI, not just to ask questions, but trying to find out what are the really interesting and ethical questions that we have to ask.
At this point, we didn't even have a name for the series yet, but here I am with a philosophy professor at the National Greek Library. Now, Dr. Steeres, he sees us asking the exact same questions.
We try to answer the same questions that Socrates or Plato discussed with their students 2,500 years before. We can learn a lot of things, and we can get a lot of new insights about new technologies from the way the ancient Greeks discussed the same issues. I think that the major threat is that younger people tend to rationalize AI as a kind of God. All these AI machines and the algorithms would not be effective in our everyday life if we don't put in them virtues and special prudence.
Maniática.
Easy guy to get along with, Isaiah Bezius, out here on the port of Pyrrhus.
What companies that they should be banning?
He's a Western man. He's a Greek person. Well, Socrates' main idea was so that we ought to learn ourselves, know Safton, know thyself. It looks like now we've stepped back and we've realized that many of these AI systems are able to know ourselves more than we do. So there's this disconnect, and that creates some sort of discomfort because we thought that knowing ourselves was something that we ought to do for ourselves, and we ought to examine ourselves, and yet we're now very ready to be examined by a power that wasn't around even 50 years ago.
He's a startup guy, but under the surface, East versus West, individuality versus surrender. But he showed me that this has been the game all along.
The dichotomy is right from the beginning, from the early years, is Socrates versus Confucius. That's the entire game all along. Really? You have to examine yourself. You have to live your life philosophically and examine yourself and know yourself, owning your data, that is, keeping it secret, keeping it close to you, and then you expose yourself to a crowd. Whereas Confucians really believe in structure more than they believe in the individual and themselves. They believe in the community. That's why they're enamored with communism more than they believe in the power of the individual to learn, about himself. And they seem therefore more readily available to share the data without any concern. Now, this is interesting because we're in a particular point in human civilization where these two ideas seem to be colliding. and we're talking about a collision between China and the United States. We talk about, East and West, and bottom line is that whether we are choosing a life that is a life of service to the community, or we're choosing a life which is a life of service to ourselves and knowing ourselves, the Socratic life.
And again, I found myself in front of the Acropolis. Tassus brought it home.
How do people find meaning in today's world? What can we learn from ancient philosophy or contemporary philosophy?
Well, the question of meaning is, in my opinion, not a strictly existential question, but at the same time also a political question, because what we tend to forget in modernity is that the question of meaning, which is the question, how should I live my life, a question is which can be answered only in a social context. There are institutional limitations. Let's say, for example, you are a woman in Iran or a citizen in North Korea. Then the answer to the question, how should I live my life, is pretty much predefined and answered already. So the freedom to actually ask that question and live your life accordingly is non-existent.
The real danger isn't AI. It's forgetting what it means to be human. On the next Final Prompt.
James was introduced to me by Labrini Foma. Yes. Okay, they know each other. So yeah, so he's doing a very interesting podcast on AI.
Okay.
On AI and
The intersection of Greek philosophy and robotics and AI.
Oh, this is very
So this is a series concept. This is what I'm trying to prove with
that's
this.
what he's founded a small startup.